Oh, the rat's name is Remy. He makes omelets well. The omelet is tasty, but it he not sell. He gives to the critic who says, oh, yummy. It makes him think back when he had it last. And that's the plot of the movie. Hi, welcome back to Nostalgia Club.
Oh my God, we just lost all of our listeners.
Welcome back to Nostalgia Club. We're talking about Ratatouille for the kickoff of season 4.
Woo!
Mouse with sword? No. Rat with spoon.
Yeah.
A wonderful bit of synchronicity, serendipity, whatever. Because not only is talking about rodents with skill something that's very near and dear to Nostalgia Club at this point, but it also ties in very well with MouseKnight. And,
Ghost Inspectors, listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah, and much like Ghost Inspectors, Ratatouille involves a ghost.
That's true.
Sort of. A figment of Remy's imagination.
Yeah, an imaginary friend.
Chef Boyardee, he's there too.
So Ratatouille, when did that come out, huh?
Do you want to introduce us?
No. Sorry, we've already been, anyway.
It's okay.
Hi. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Victoria.
Victoria. It's so nice to meet you. We are reintroducing the listenership.
2007.
2007 is when Ratatouille came out. And goodness, that voice that arrived from the ether. Who was that speaking just now?
Hi, I'm Jino Jang, voice of background parade number 5 in Ghost Inspectors. Listen now whenever you get your podcast.
I do appreciate Gino's dedication to promoting Ghost Inspectors at any opportunity.
Listen now wherever you get your podcasts.
It's like a button.
And I'm Michael.
Yay!
Yay! And we're...
What was that?
I poked myself. And we're here to talk about all kinds of things that we're nostalgic for generally. And today we're talking about Ratatouille, which came out in 2007. Because here's the thing, when we go further back in time, our differences in ages start to matter more.
That's true, yeah.
So I was in 7th grade, which means I was, how old is that? Like 12, 13?
So then I must have been like in kindergarten. No, I don't know. Like 5th grade?
I was 9, so I was in 4th grade.
4th grade?
Yeah,
that
we
sounds
must have been
all right.
fourth.
I guess that's not too terrible a
Yeah.
difference. Although when you're that young, it does feel like
No,
a lot.
actually, now I was like, wow, 7th grade and 4th grade is actually like a huge difference when you're a kid.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, I remember seeing this in theaters. Just so you know, if you're late to the movie and you started at the point where Remy shows up to the kitchen and you meet Linguini for the first time, you're fine. You can understand the rest
That's
of the
true.
movie without
Yeah.
any issues.
Huh.
Did you all see the movie when it first came out? Is that where you're nostalgic for it?
I don't remember.
I genuinely don't remember when I saw this movie.
So it's just a part of the tapestry of your youth.
Yeah.
See, that's a special place. For me, it's not a part of the tapestry in the same way. Like, I distinctly remember. Did you both watch it multiple times?
I don't remember.
I don't think I saw it in theaters, but I definitely saw it when it was out on DVD, and then I have watched it many, many times since then.
Wow.
It's one of the only movies that sometimes I'll just throw on my phone to just like have on in the background while I cook dinner.
It's a pretty good cooking ambiance movie,
Incredible.
except for the stressful parts where Colette yells at you for not keeping your station clean.
That's the stressful part?
No, I'm kidding.
The stressful part's when they're angry at each other because of a miscommunication.
Yeah.
And then his brother eats all those grapes, and then he falls in the ground, and he spits the grapes out like a machine gun. And it's my favorite part of the movie. A lot of really great memes that have come from this.
Yeah.
A lot of great reaction images, I should say.
Oh, yes.
I guess a recent reference to Ratatouille that I had was I was watching the new Netflix show Culinary Class Wars with some friends. And there's a few times in some of the earlier episodes where they're tasting food, and then one of the judges will be like, oh, yes, this reminds me of my youth. And my friends and I would always look at each other and be like, oh, he had a Ratatouille moment. Which is basically just a moment where you eat something that reminds you of your childhood, which is basically what we're talking about in this show.
Yes.
Our nostalgia for this movie and for food.
Criticism
Wow.
and nostalgia. Two main themes of both the podcast and
That's true. Wow.
Because it's criticism too.
Yeah.
What better movie or piece of media to start the season with?
Yeah. Should we do a brief plot summary?
Yeah.
You both looked at me. Sure. Okay, I can try. So Remy, voiced by
Patton Oswalt.
Patton Oswalt, what a guy, is a rat living in a colony of rats in the countryside. He has a very distinct palate and sense of smell, so he loves fine dining and cooking and cuisine, and his dad likes trash. And his brother
Also likes trash.
What's his name? What's the brother's
Emil.
name? Emil. The rats love trash. So Remy, through hijinks and trying to cook his food, learns about the death of his hero, Chef
Gusto.
I watched the movie 2 days ago and I can't remember any of their names.
It's okay.
The death of his hero, Chef Gusto, who runs a restaurant in Paris. Doing so, he inadvertently gets his rat family kicked out of their little attic where they lived in this farmhouse. And he ends up in Paris alone and hungry, and he finds himself running through the streets of Paris at Gusto's. And he, through hijinks, manages to team up with the new garbage boy of Gusto's, Linguini, which is a name.
His full name is Alfredo Linguini.
Delicious. Linguini learns that the animals of this world can communicate with humans and that they're actually very smart. But he's most concerned about the fact that this one rat can cook. And so puppeting Linguini using his hair, Remy is able to skyrocket Linguini's career into becoming a cook and then a chef. Linguini learns that he's actually the long-lost son of Chef Gusto, earning him ownership of the whole restaurant to the ire of head chef Skinner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who they gaslight the entire movie. Genuinely, this man is awful, but also I feel bad for him because the whole movie is just him being gaslit. And when he finally realizes the truth, he gets locked in rat prison. It's crazy. Linguini falls in love with the chef that sort of mentored him through the process, Colette.
The only female chef.
The only female chef.
At Gusto's.
Colette doesn't know about Remy, but they sort of start competing for Linguini's ear, so to speak. And Linguini has a falling out with Remy. Remy, feeling extremely betrayed, brings his whole rat family, who he finds, into Gusto's to raid it. Linguini finds out and is devastated. Meanwhile, food critic
Anton Ego.
who apparently left a review so scathing that it killed Gusto, decides to go after his son, I guess. 2 for 2, baby.
Finish the job.
And so this all culminates in this one very important night where Anton Ego shows up to rate the restaurant, but the entire kitchen staff, having learned about Remy and also with the previous disaster of Remy and Linguini's falling out, have left, leaving the restaurant unstaffed. Remy has a change of heart and decides, you know what? I really, really want to cook. I don't care if my dad likes garbage. I don't care if Linguini and I have differences. Like, I really want to cook. And so he brings his whole rat family in. They cook. Linguini is inspired to become a waiter. And they cook a meal so nostalgic that Anton Ego decides to leave a review praising Remy. And then the restaurant closes down because there's rats in the kitchen. And they open up a little bistro. And it works really well for about a year. And then Remy dies because he's a rat.
Well, maybe they got two.
Maybe they got two.
Maybe
Maybe he's a really young
Man,
rat.
that's true. Yeah. I didn't think about that. I just love the tiny little rat restaurant at the end.
And
it's very cute.
Remy alternates between like that sort of like classic up close cartoonish, like, yeah, I'm a cartoon animal guy. But when he's kind of far away, he's really cute.
He's so cute.
He's just
so
a little
small. There's
fluffy
like
ball.
in the opening scenes, or like one of the earlier scenes when he has lost his whole family and he's in the sewer and he like curls in on himself in like a tiny ball because he's just sad and alone. I was like, no.
Or when he's in the little jar
Yeah.
and Linguini's going to drown him and he's like, no.
Yeah.
He's very cute.
I desperately want one of those like little Remy plushies that like sit on your head and there's clips where you can like clip your hair into it.
They have a version of that that's a magnet. So you can sit on your shoulder and you don't have to clip anything.
Oh yeah, that's also good.
I have the Porg version of that. It's
Nice.
pretty great. So that's Ratatouille, a cultural icon. Everyone appears to have seen this movie and everyone loves it. And there's references all over. I think critically, some people have the opinion that it's not a very good movie because there's not like a singular villain and the story kind of goes through like different phases and it's not like totally cohesive. And the stakes also aren't very high compared to other Pixar movies. Like there's no life and death stakes. It's just career and restaurant over anything else. But I would argue that this is a perfect movie and the writing's amazing and I love watching a rat cook.
Yeah. The cooking sequences are pretty amazing.
Yeah. And Linguini's there too.
Yeah. No, I personally think I was thinking about this the other night when I watched this, and I think the reason why Ratatouille is so compelling is because it's first and foremost about the relationship between two people. Well, not people, two characters.
Well, they are people, I guess, even if they're not all human.
Yeah, I always get into the semantics of like, what is a person? Okay, between two characters, Linguini and Remy, who basically are as different as you can get. Not only is like one person a human and the other is a rat, but just like personality-wise and the things that they want in life are very different. Normally, these two characters would never interact or have anything to do with one another. Linguini, like, he just wants a job, honestly. Like, he's not out here trying to become a chef.
He wants to build a life.
Yeah, he wants to, like, get out of his really tiny apartment and, like, stop getting kicked out of jobs. Although he says, like, early on, he's like, I was just trying to stay out of trouble. And I was like, you were literally pouring stuff into the soup. Like, dude, you got the garbage boy job, whatever. Anyways, that's not the point. So these two characters who want different things become crucially essential to each other getting the things that they want. But once they do achieve what they want, that's when suddenly their different personalities and wants become more apparent and start becoming conflict. Because as soon as Linguini gets the girl, he's like, I just want to be with the girl. And Remy's like, no, but my cooking career. And Linguini's like, I don't really care about that as much anymore. I want Colette to like me, so I'm going to do what she tells me to do, even if Remy disagrees with like the way that she cooks. So I think that's the kind of like the crux of what makes this movie so good.
It's not about the antagonists. I mean, of course, the antagonists are very important, but they are there to spur on the conflict between these two characters and to spur on their relationship.
Yeah.
Skinner's just like an obstacle, literally just an obstacle. Ego is more about like the thematic purpose of the movie and like the message about like art and criticism. But really, it's about these two characters. And so when people want a movie that's about like conflict and overcoming the antagonist, Ratatouille isn't that. Ratatouille is about the relationship and also about art and about following your dreams and convincing your dad that you can follow your dreams.
And I think it's better for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems a lot of people do. It seems the both of you do, which is the important part. Do you agree or disagree with us? Write in and tell us you agree, even if you don't. But yeah, when I was watching this back, I was like, I don't know exactly what it was like behind the scenes, but with the various kind of like plot threads they got to weave through everything, what with Linguini's parentage and like the will bequeathing the restaurant to him and trying to tie that into a rat that wants to be a chef. I was like, the writing process for this must have been like really convoluted. Like I would be surprised if they really had to kind of like hash out with a bunch of string on a board or something like, okay, and then we'll have this connect to this and a conversation has to happen here detailing this. And like when you were young, if you remember at all, was there a time watching Ratatouille where you weren't really like aware of what a lot of the characters' conversations were about, especially as they regarded like Gusteau's will and how his parentage of Linguini factors into it? Because it is like, there's a number of conversations that Skinner has with his lawyer, and it's all just kind of like, it's kind of a fun little soap opera-y sort of thing, and there's a bit of legal shop talking, I suppose.
Definitely this most recent time I watched it, because I was really paying attention for the podcast, I didn't learn anything I didn't know about the plot, but I picked up details that I never realized before. Just the intricacies of how well woven the plot is. Because watching it as a kid, it kind of felt like stuff was just kind of happening. I was just along for the ride. But you can really see the two main, I guess, like sections of the movie, like the Skinner legal stuff and then the Anton review stuff, how well that stuff is really set up. And also, the few adult jokes in the in the movie that I finally picked up this time. That I was like, oh, fun.
I have a small. I start.
Yeah.
Very intentional. There's a lot of those I'll see where I'm
That
like, oh,
one
come
was
on. But that one was
crazy.
very intentional.
There was also one about like, I don't know, like size of a vegetable or something. It was fun. It was great. Oh yeah. One can get too familiar with vegetables.
The tone that he's one can get too familiar with vegetables.
I didn't even pick up
Incredible.
on that one. Wow. Anyways,
I love the Rat Society. I think it's great.
Yeah.
I love that there's a little rat society and they've got their own rules and they've got musicians, which means they value art. And
Yeah.
they've got jobs and they're all from Boston, I guess. And that they function within and beside human society with full knowledge of their movements and machinations, and human society is completely oblivious to them. I think it's absolutely wonderful. And I love there's a rat band. It's a band of rats. They play music. It's great.
I love the haunting shot where Remy's dad is looking up at the window of rat traps and rats hanging from the traps, and the sky is gray and it's raining, and he goes, "This is the way the world is, Remy." And I'm like, this movie changed into a different movie. But all works. Somehow this movie just works.
yeah.
And so much of this movie is just talking.
Yeah, it
That's
really is.
true, yeah.
The dialogue is so good. I was thinking that the first 5 minutes of the movie, when it's just Remy and Emile talking, how much information about character and world they pack into just talking about food.
Yeah.
It's so artfully. I mean, it's Pixar. Like, that's kind of the level, that's the bar they set. But man, it blew my mind. Movies are awesome. I love movies.
Yeah.
As I was watching, I'm sure you noticed it too, especially when you're watching like closely, there are so many ways that they either construct character micro expressions in
Yeah.
different scenes, and just even the introduction of linguine, where one of the chefs is introducing linguine to Skinner, and he's like, I can't even fully describe it because it all just moves very fluidly. And he's like, new kid wants to be a garbage boy. Do you remember Renata Gusteau's old flame? And he kind of like the way he gives a look, it's like, if you're clued in, you can be like, oh, maybe this is sort of like maybe this is a little illegitimate son. But at that point, it doesn't matter if any other character knows that
Yeah.
Linguini might be related to Gusteau,
Yeah.
because only Skinner has the will.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like that's one little isolated moment that doesn't even have to exist in the movie, and yet it does, because there was like thought put into every conversation and how every character in every conversation is going to like feel about the words that they're saying, or
Yeah.
express with a little bit of subtext how they feel. Every conversation is kind of like that.
Also, the way that they build out the kitchen, it's so like immersive and vibrant, and like everyone's talking so fast, and the background, they must have like had to do so much background dialogue
Oh
for
my
the
gosh.
side characters for this. The information is conveyed to you at such a rapid pace, but you still understand what's going on, and it just adds so many layers of complexity to all the characters in every moment.
Also, the amount of research they must have had to do to make an
yeah.
accurate kitchen. I don't know how accurate that kitchen is, but it feels pretty accurate to me.
Yeah.
Just like as random viewer number 3 or whatever.
Oh, I'm sure they put like a great deal of time into modeling that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about us exploring the kitchen through Remy's eyes and his perspective, because he's running around and he's like trying not to die, but you get to see all the different stations, and you even get to see the restaurant, and like the stark contrast of how chaotic the kitchen is compared to like the nice calming atmosphere of the fine dining restaurant before you're right back into the chaos again. It's so good. And I was like, animating and like storyboarding that must have taken forever.
And they must have had to like render it. I mean, I don't know. But like, since you're down at Remy's scale,
Yeah.
I feel like they would have had to have taken that into account in terms of rendering every single object with greater fidelity than maybe they otherwise
That's
might
true.
have
Like
been
you
able
normally
to.
might not have to have so much detail on shoes, for example, but
Mm.
in this case, it really matters. Like, what does the bottom of someone's foot look like?
Yeah, what do the floors look
Yeah.
like when the countertops, every ladle?
Yeah, but then you still do get the human scale proportion. So you still got it's not like you don't have to know what the stovetops look like. You got to know that too.
I like it when he barfs.
You mean when Remy makes the face?
Little hork. We have that as a react in our Discord channel. the little Remy hork.
It is very visceral.
I love little bits of Foley about very specific things.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to talk about the Foley of the bread.
Oh.
Whoever did the Foley for the bread is like, I want to know what they used. Because bread doesn't sound... No, bread doesn't sound that...
Bread doesn't sound that good.
I'm sure maybe they use some bread, but it's like one of those like sound design moments where you're like, I don't think just crackling some bread next to a mic would get the amount of depth that you actually want to convey in that moment where they're like, listen to the crackle of the bread.
Maybe some kind of like thick plastic packaging, maybe? Like that. I don't know.
They just brought some post-production workers in there and said, all right, stand up straight and we'll put a mic next to your spine. And then you got...
Yeah.
The ratatouille, though.
The ratatouille always looks so good. I did make ratatouille last week.
How was it?
It was pretty good.
Hey!
Yeah.
Yay!
It's a pretty straightforward dish. It's just a lot of chopping that you have to do. But once you've chopped all the vegetables and assembled it, then you just put it in the oven and it bakes for like an hour and a half.
Mm-hmm.
It's really great with some rice, or you can have it with bread or noodles or really anything. It's really good.
Bread and noodles and rice and a big pot of soup.
Gosh, an hour and a half. Do you think, because Anton Ego at the end of that movie was waiting for quite a while before they started making the food.
Yeah.
Maybe by the time he got the ratatouille, he was just like, I'm so hungry. That the moment he took a bite, he was just like, oh, yeah.
No, yeah. After making ratatouille, when I watched them put it in the oven, I was like, that's got to bake for a while. Because you have to first roast it covered, and then you uncover it and roast it for another 45 minutes. I mean,
Maybe
it was
there's
a smaller
something-
dish, so maybe...
But maybe there's something about slicing it thin that speeds up the cook time. Maybe it's
I
not
did
just...
also slice it thin.
Oh,
But
you sliced it,
want,
like,
yeah,
really
you
thin?
want the vegetables to like really be like almost melt in your mouth.
Wait, so you made like ratatouille ratatouille?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you made like the chopped
No,
up
no.
block.
I made the
Whoa.
like slice. That's why I was saying the slicing takes a long time.
Dang,
I've
that's
only
impressive.
ever made it with a friend so that we can tag team.
Wow. The bits where Remy was like tasting food and it all kind of goes black and you have those like light graphics in the background. I read somewhere that was made by someone named Michel Gagny, I think. Michael Gagny, maybe? I don't know if I'm saying the name right, but he's a Canadian artist, cartoonist, animator that I think has synesthesia.
Oh, yeah. So my friend actually has synesthesia.
Mm-hmm.
And when they watched the movie Ratatouille, they were like, oh, yeah, that's what happens when you eat food. They didn't know that that was an unusual thing
Really?
until other people were watching Ratatouille and they were like, yeah, that's so cool how they like portrayed it like that. And they're like, oh, you don't see colors when you eat food?
Gosh, the uniqueness of human experience is a wild thing.
Yeah.
You can go your whole life and be like, ah, yes, isn't it nice when we eat food and we all see a light bath of color flood our vision? But apparently all it takes
synesthesia can come in different forms. Like some people, when they hear sounds, they see color, or like certain sounds are associated with different colors. And everyone, it's also like different for each person. So like if you hear something, you might see purple, whereas I might see orange, for example.
I just think it's really cool that like the director just said, okay, you draw or you paint what you see, and that's what's going to happen. I thought that was really neat.
Yeah. I mean, it's just great for animation, obviously, like a great way to convey how food might make you feel.
Yeah.
But with
this
this added layer of like, yeah, some people actually do experience this when they eat food.
Mm-hmm. I always think about that scene specifically because my mom always describes food as nutty.
Oh.
Like, oh, the nuttiness, it's so good. And so just repeated like, oh, yeah, I'm definitely getting some nuttiness.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I don't know what that means.
Oh my gosh, I think about the strawberry and cheese that he eats at the beginning all the time. And then the mushroom.
when it's been sizzled by the lightning.
I was like, should I go and like roast some mushroom?
With
Popped
cheese.
like popcorn.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Also, Remy, like right off the bat, it's like, this needs saffron. Like, Remy, slow down. That's expensive. What about paprika?
I think it's really fun because it also conveys that Remy has been watching Gusteau's videos for a long time.
Yeah.
Because he knows what all these spices are. He kind of hasn't, his palate is already refined enough that he'll know what something needs and he knows exactly what that thing is. Whereas like someone who maybe just has a naturally good palate but like doesn't know about all these ingredients and spices might be like, oh, it needs something like earthy or something like that, but they don't know what spice might give that. But because he's watched Gusteau's TV shows, he knows.
Yeah. What do you guys think about the theory that the house that Remy was living in is Anton Ego's former childhood home?
Oh,
And
I was
that's
going to bring
why
this
he
up. There are
knows.
like crazy like Pixar universe theories about this movie too. One of the theories is that the old lady is Boo from Monsters, Inc.
Oh, the like cross universe one.
Yeah.
That one I don't really buy.
I just think it's fun because everyone is like, oh yeah, because they put Easter eggs in their movies, and I think they are just purely Easter eggs, like a little fun thing for the animators.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw Doug from Up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you saw Bomb Voyage from The Incredibles.
No, I didn't pick that one up.
I think it was Bomb Voyage. When Linguini and Colette are roller skating, there's a mime on the street.
Oh.
And I think it's
that's fun. Okay, but yes, there is a within the universe theory that lady is Anton Ego. No, like just the house is Anton Ego's childhood home.
Yeah. So there is a theory that Remy knew what to make Anton Ego because he spent a lot of time in the house. And so he could kind of guess like what he would have eaten in his childhood based on like, you know, the garden or like what's growing or like the cookbooks or whatever.
That in particular is interesting, not even for the theory alone, but just because the way that they resolve the climax, like the central tension of that final obstacle, is really not set up at all.
Yeah. It's not set up in the plot, but it's set up thematically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the movie The Menu. It's almost the same. Teaching the antagonist to love the art or the craft or the food again, right? Like, cook me a cheeseburger. It'll remind you of what it was like to first cook and really fall in love with it. Let me make you ratatouille. It will remind you what it was like to first eat, to be a kid and eat and really fall in love with it.
Yeah.
So the same, like, and they both come out of nowhere. I think Ratatouille is better, but you know.
I think it's just maybe Remy gets the sense that at this point, Anton Ego is just so in his food critic persona, and he must have eaten so many delicious things in his life. Fine dining is full of like unique culinary experiences, and Remy is just like, no, I'm just gonna make you the best roasted vegetables you've ever had.
Yeah.
It's so simple that like Colette is like, that's like a peasant dish. This wouldn't be considered fine dining by any means, but they make it and it kind of brings Ego back to his roots. I don't think Remy's intention was like, I know that Anton Ego grew up poor, and so he's going to really enjoy this ratatouille. I think Remy was literally just like, no, I'm going to cook him something that's just delicious, and it's not pretentious, and it's just good.
Yeah.
And
I've
hearty.
psychoanalyzed this man. My rat brain.
I did, though, as a kid. I didn't realize they were vegetables.
Oh, so you were like, what is that?
Or like, I kind of knew some of it was vegetables, but I thought some of it was pepperoni.
I also thought it was pepperoni. I was like, little circles. The only food I know that's little circles is pepperoni.
I would not turn that down at all. A little.
No, actually,
like,
when I make
sliced.
ratatouille, I do add pepperoni.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, that's what I was trying to get at. Like, do you do anything?
No, I actually, maybe the next time I make ratatouille, I might do like a meat sauce as the base with the vegetables on top. I just think it's a really good dish just at its baseline, but adding more protein to it will make it more filling.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I think you really do have to have ratatouille almost like as a side dish with other things. So, like I did end up, because we had some leftovers, so I ended up cooking some of the leftover ratatouille with meatballs, and that was pretty good.
Yeah. Nice. I want to give a quick shout out to the rat boats. The rat boats.
The little boats of scrap that they sail away on.
Think about the planning, the pre-planning that had to go into making those rat boats, right? You have a colony of rats that have furniture and a job system and stuff, like living in this attic, but also the forethought to know that this is not going to last forever and we will need to evacuate because we know the old lady living downstairs has a full like exterminator suit. And like just pesticide or something, like just gas.
And also a huge gun.
Yeah,
Giant
like a
rifle.
shotgun that has like 50 rounds in it or something.
And she is at once both a bad shot and a surprisingly good shot.
Yeah. When she's panicked, she's a bad shot. But when she locks in, she can hit any target with that shotgun. But like the forethought of like, oh yes, we need boats to escape, but also we don't know where the boats go. Because why would we ever test that?
Yeah.
Right? Like if we test it, we lose that rat. We don't know.
Well, the rat wouldn't even be able to tell you where it
Maybe
goes.
they did test it. Maybe they tested with one boat and they said, okay, we want to know where our boats will go if we have to evacuate. Go into that drainage pipe and go down a ways and then come back. And then that rat was washed away the same way that they all were, that Remy was.
And they were all like, well, we'll just risk it. Because you can hear them all falling down the waterfall.
Yeah.
And so they clearly had no idea what they were doing.
Well, I think rats are resilient enough that they're just kind of like, yeah, wherever this goes will be better than where we were before. I just want to say, of all the things in this movie, which there are some very unrealistic things, like how you can control someone with just their hair. But the most unrealistic thing in this movie is that Remy uses a book as a raft and the book doesn't get utterly destroyed.
It's just really high quality waterproof paper.
Like when he opens the book again, it's like a little wrinkly and like water damaged, but like he can still, I was like, that book, all the ink would run. The pages would be like so thin, like they would just rip and fall apart.
Just be like clumps.
Because he's not in the water for like a second. He's in there for a really long time.
Although, maybe, because Gusteau thinks that everyone can cook, so he would make a cookbook that's spill resistant because he knows that a lot of people are just trying out cooking,
maybe it's like really high quality paper.
Yeah, it's
and
like
buoyant.
It's all, every page is laminated.
Yeah.
And that adds a lot of air, right? So yeah.
It's like one of those laminated things where it's like you can push in the surface of it a little bit. It's that like soft plastic, but instead of it just being soft plastic, it's like compressed air.
Yeah.
Also, shout out to the sound design at the very beginning of the movie, because it's like an exterior shot and it pushes in and you just slowly start to hear like this woman like screaming and like gunshots and like dishes clattering and stuff. And then Remy jumps out of the window.
You can hear the rat colony crashing through the ceiling and then the old lady going, ah!
Yeah. All of that was all in sound design.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
Floats down the river. He has an existential crisis. He meets his ghost friend, Gusteau.
There's something so deeply philosophical about this, which is, I know, something we've already talked about and a lot of other people have. But even earlier today, it's like, there's something that feels so metaphorical, distinctly, about Remy being in the sewer and having to have a conversation with his imaginary friend, who later in the movie he has a conversation with imaginary Gusteau where he's like, I don't even know why I have to talk to you. You're just me. And imaginary Gusteau is like, that's the point, Remy. You know, you never have needed me. It's always been you. Like, you just needed to talk yourself into taking a chance. And when he's in that sewer, he's like, I've lost everything. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
What do I do? And he's like, I need food. And Gusteau, or what is it? Maybe it's after that. But basically, Gusteau is like, you have to go see. Just try climbing up. And then, you know, when Remy tries to steal food, Gusteau is like, food will come, Remy, to those who love to cook. There's just something very philosophical about that, where it's just like, just keep going and trust the process. That sequence of him crawling up through the sewer and then through the building, past little obstacles and people going through their various lives, and then coming out on top and realizing, oh, I'm actually in the middle of something beautiful, but I never would have realized it if I had just lain there and resigned myself to something that I thought was total and obliterating.
Yeah. And oh, look, there's my hero's restaurant right there.
It just feels really poignant and true in a very loose kind of, almost a spiritual way.
Yeah. Like the themes of this movie are so profound, which I think is one of the reasons why it's lasted for so long, just as like in the cultural consciousness. The argument between anyone can cook and only those who are really great at it should cook, between Gusteau and Ego, and like the compromise they make of a cook can come from anyone. Because like not anyone can cook. Linguini never learns how to cook. He's always bad at it, and he accepts that at the end. But it's something that I truly believe, that like talent is made through fire. Like you're not born with talent. Like some people are born taller, so they can do basketball better. But I believe in the haiku spirit, that if you just really, really, really try, you can accomplish anything. And that I'm just very lazy, which is why I haven't accomplished much. But
Stop that.
That's
I was
not
making
true.
a joke. Making a joke.
You don't get no more self-deprecating for you today, young
but Ratatouille
man.
is a more like nuanced approach to that. That like, yes, some people can try their whole lives to something and not succeed, but you should never discount anyone because you don't know if they just try, then maybe they can do it.
Mm-hmm.
I really, really like that message. And I really, really like the whole thing about the criticism stuff too.
Yeah.
That a critic risks everything when in the defense of the new or the like untested instead of just like ragging on stuff that people already don't like, which we do all the time.
Oh, yeah. Here we are.
Yeah.
I wonder what next
I think-
episode will be like.
Anton Ego's article that he publishes is just such an amazing moment in the movie, and it's just like a monologue.
Yeah.
I feel like in terms of kids' movies, it's probably a moment that kids might be sort of like, this is kind of boring. But they put it in, and here's the part where like I don't remember how much I like got from that when I was a kid. But I think that's why it's lasted so long, because like every generation kind of gets a little something different from that whole monologue. And it really sums up the message of the movie really well. And it, like you said, it's like very like meditative and philosophical.
And what a gutsy move to be a bunch of artists making a movie and then putting an explicit message about criticism in your movie right at the end, right before the critics write their reviews about the movie.
Yeah.
That's such a bold move. I absolutely adore it.
I do think because the art of cooking shares a lot of similarities with other forms of art that I feel like obviously the animators were able to inject a lot of their own like personal like philosophies or like ruminations on being a creator into the movie.
That's what I really love, because it's such a trope in Hollywood of writers writing about writers or like actors playing actor. Like Hollywood likes to write about itself because you write what you know. And so Ratatouille is a really great way to write about the struggles of being creative without writing La La Land, which is like, we're actors and acting and we're acting in the actor city. Like, yeah, okay.
Ratatouille is not self-aggrandizing nor self-pitying. It just feels very emotionally honest.
Yeah.
In a way that's very like welcoming and affirming. It's not trying to defend itself or the things it's standing for. It's just sort of with a certain clarity kind of stating like, I don't know, it's hard to express, but it's just very like emotionally open and like honest. It feels like I can feel individual voices within the movie.
Yeah.
Like talking to each other and talking to like a viewer. And it's not in defense or in attack of anything. It's a very like resolute but untroubled kind of presence.
Yeah.
I was also thinking in terms of cooking as a metaphor for other types of art. When Chef Skinner takes over the restaurant, he basically uses Gusteau's brand to create frozen meals or prepackaged products. And I was thinking, that's also very similar to sort of what some executives think about entertainment, where it's kind of like, why don't we just make it fast and convenient and cheap for us to produce and easy for people to consume, and they'll love it.
Yeah, like imagine being a big entertainment company that makes a popular animated movie, and the big actor that voices one of the big characters, I don't know, like say a genie, is like, don't use my likeness for a bunch of like random crap. And then he passes away, and now people have to pay $15 for the Genie app at Disneyland. That'd be crazy, right?
That would, unfathomable.
Also, in that scene, when Remy's like Gusteau hallucination like inhabits all of the Gusteau, what are they called? Cutouts?
Yeah.
And each cutout has a different accent based on their food. And they very wisely keep the Chinese food Gusteau. they shut him up. He doesn't say anything.
Yeah.
And then I was watching. I was like, okay, Cowboy Gusteau, Dog Gusteau. Oh, they're getting close. Oh, they're going to do it. Oh, they don't do it. They're just passing by. There we go.
Yeah.
We're okay.
Whew.
This movie is very comforting and healing.
It's also great to watch Skinner just get blasted. Just this poor guy, he's losing his mind.
No, let's talk about the health inspector real quick. The health inspector is like...
The one shot we get of him to introduce him, just the saddest looking man.
He's like buried in paperwork. And he gets a call from Skinner because Skinner's trying to get the restaurant shut down. And the health inspector's like, okay, you got to wait like 10 months or something. And
I think it's 3.
Yeah. And he finally shows up, and the first thing he sees is a sea of rats.
And then they attack him.
And they hijack his car and they kidnap him. I'm just like putting myself in his shoes, and I'm like, okay, I got this call, gotta go check it out. And like normally as a health inspector, like you have to be so thorough. Not all the time, but usually in order to find signs of an infestation, you gotta like at least open some cabinets, look for like signs of rats or whatever. But he just opens the door.
Rat sign.
He just opens the door and there's like 500 rats.
And they're all actively cooking. Like, this isn't like there's rats in the kitchen. There's rats in the kitchen.
And they are making your food. Oh my gosh. We've talked about this in a previous episode about the freaking like sanitizer.
The big dishwashing sanitizer machine that they put the rats through that would absolutely kill all of them. Not only is it like sanitizer and it's very hot, but there's a big, it's not a blade, it's just like it shoots water, but there's like a big like spinning thing in the bottom. There's no place for the rats to stand. They're going to get like chopped up and tossed into like bleach, basically.
Well, and a dishwasher is going to be so hot on the interior. They're just going to shut off their tiny rat bodies. It's just going to overload their like ability to regulate. And the moment that the thing lifts up, I think we made this joke in a recap.
Just a pile of...
Just a bunch of rats are going to come tumbling out. Just like steaming.
I'm just like, oh...
I still love that scene, though, because I just love the efficiency of how they thought of, like, okay, this is how realistically a bunch of rats could could cook French cuisine.
I like
Which is, like, French cuisine is one of the most precise cuisines.
Mm-hmm.
They have to, like, chop things to, like, the utmost... Okay, it's not just French cuisine, but just fine dining in general.
Yeah.
Every single like vegetable has to be the exact same size. And if anything is like undercooked or overcooked, you have to send it back. These are like Michelin star regulations.
Yeah. Also, can we talk about how the restaurant has one waiter? Their front of house is one poor, exhausted man who has to deal with Skinner, who's just like this little lunatic. Like, what was his reaction? Because he wasn't in the kitchen when Linguini was like, oh, there's a rat controlling me. Does he walk back into the kitchen carrying...
I think they explained it to him, and then you see him leave, I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I think so.
Maybe
I don't remember.
Notice. I'm just thinking about what the front of house would think when they come back in to be like, all right, order up. And there's just a bunch of rats. And they're like, oh!
Then they get thrown into the pantry.
Yeah. Rat prison.
I love the muscly rat beating up the steak to tenderize it. And I love that the sound effects they use are the most cartoonish, like... Psh, psh, psh.
Muscly rat is great. I love that they just reuse the animation of him winking like 3 times because they don't need to change it.
Yeah.
He's got the same like looping like wink animation. Fantastic.
Man, it's so good. Okay, to pivot slightly, I did want to talk about how Ratatouille maybe gave me false notions of what French food was like.
What do you
Honestly,
mean? It's
genuinely,
not like that? No,
I think I had a poor first experience with French food when I went to France.
Ah.
Oh, it was made by people instead of rats.
Yeah.
I went to France thinking that all the food was made by rats. And then it wasn't. There were people in the kitchen. No, a couple years ago, I went to basically like the edge of France because I was visiting Germany. I had family living there at the time.
The Edge of France, a new drama coming to the...
And in Europe, you can kind of just drive to whatever other country nearby. So my aunt and uncle were like, do you want to go to a Christmas market in France? And I was like, oh, that sounds great. So we went, we got in the car, we drove into France. And you can just do that. We brought our passports, but they didn't really check even. Anyways, so we get there and we plan to spend the whole day in France. And we go to like this tiny little restaurant. And I was super excited because I'd never really properly had French food.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay, I've watched Ratatouille. Everything in there looked so good. And it was a place where, because it's like a really small restaurant, they basically only had 3 things on the menu. It's like whatever's like the freshest ingredients of the day, they'll like serve. And so the menu had a couple different things. I think there was like a pasta dish and there was like maybe like a soup dish or something, but there was like a fish dish that I thought sounded pretty good. So I ordered that, ordered a glass of wine with it because I was like, I guess we're in... My aunt was like, it's noon. And I was like, but we're in France.
You're like, don't take this away from me.
Justified.
I don't even like wine, but I was like,
But
I'm
you
in
gotta.
France, so I have to have wine with my dish, you know?
Yeah?
Like, so anyways.
Did you get a hold of a baguette too?
I don't think they had bread, but we did go to several bakeries after.
Did you hear the crust?
Yeah.
The crackle?
Yeah.
Only the great French bread tastes like sound like this. Whatever the quote is.
So the food arrived, and my fish was cold. It was like a cold fish dish. Like, it wasn't that the fish had gone cold.
It was like
I think
supposed
it was
to be
meant
cold.
to be cold. And it was a really cold day as well. So I was really looking forward to a hot meal. And it was just kind of disappointing, and it didn't taste very good.
I'm just imagining you being in this restaurant. They're like, would you like to see? And you're like, please, I've seen Ratatouille.
No, on it, like, sorry to everyone in Europe, but so far, all the food that I've had in Europe has been very underwhelming.
That's so valid. I went to New York and I had 2 bagels, and they were 2 of the worst bagels I've ever eaten.
Really?
They were from Liberty Bagel and Leo's, the 2 places that were recommended to me in the
No.
financial district, and they were both untoasted and very, very hard.
That's so disappointing. We went to a couple different places in Germany, and everything was like unsalted.
My parents were in a town in Italy that they were so excited to try the bread in because they heard the bread was good. But there's a tradition in this one town for some reason to not put salt in the bread for some like historical reason. And so they thought they made the bread wrong, and they just kept going from restaurant to bakery to restaurant. And they realized that no one put salt in the bread in the entire city. So all the bread just tasted bad.
Dang.
Wow.
And they were like, tradition. And my parents were like, put salt in your things. Come on.
Anyways, I'm sure there is very good food in France and Germany, but I think next time I go, I will do more research as to what I should order.
Well, I'm sure it's different, you know, being in like Paris in a multi-Michelin star restaurant versus, I don't know, the kind of food
my
you're going to
other
get.
thing-
Like, not even talking quality, just the kind of food they'll
No,
offer.
but I think my beef with fancy Michelin star restaurants is the amount of food you get is so small.
Because it's supposed to be like an experience.
Like the amount of ratatouille that
Rip
Ego
off.
gets is like
That's not a
3
meal.
bites. And
It's
it's
an
all
appetizer.
vegetables.
Yeah. And he scarfs it down in literally like 3 seconds.
Yeah. He did have, I assume, like,
He had a bowl of
because
soup.
when you go and like have other dishes with your meal, but I don't know. I think it's like very expensive for not a lot of food. But I
Yeah.
guess you're paying for the quality.
He also sat there for hours before and after the meal.
Yeah.
He's probably craving some like ramen or something. He's so hungry.
Ego gets home and he's like, I gotta make instant ramen.
He's like, oh, finally, after such a long day, cracks open the...
Doesn't even cook it, just bites into it. Just eats it raw.
Yeah.
Like a Korean college student.
And then he like talks himself down. He's like, oh, I'm such a hypocrite. But he's like, it's like part of his nightly ritual. And his like little butler like kind of gives him a weird look like,
Why is his butler there?
I don't know. Everybody needs a butler to
He
help
does
out.
have a butler.
Yeah.
He has like an assistant who's like, Gusteau's is popular. And he's like, popular.
In that low voice.
Amazing.
Popular.
I want you to read some more Anton Ego lines in your voice, in your Anton Ego voice.
In my Anton Ego voice? Yes. Among my list of voices that I can do is Angry British Lady and Anton Ego.
Hi, Victoria Cheng, professional voice actor.
Say, I don't like food. I love it.
I don't like food. I love it.
Amazing.
He like growls
Transported.
it.
There's so much texture.
Yeah.
Who voices Ego? I feel like it's like Bill Nighy or something. Peter O'Toole.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Lawrence of Arabia.
And if I don't love it,
I don't swallow. That's like how you know I've like watched a movie too many times when I can remember the exact intonation that someone said a line.
Oh, but it's so iconic.
Yeah. Another favorite is when Colette is like, keep your station clean or I will kill you. It's so good. I love Colette. Can we just talk about Colette real quick?
What an icon.
She's so iconic. She's the only female chef in this restaurant, and she has to fight tooth and nail for her entire station, basically. You feel how disappointed she is when Skinner immediately, quote unquote, takes Linguini under his wing. I think, like, in her mind, she's like, dang, like, this kid shows up, he's a prodigy, and he's a guy, so he's gonna get special treatment. But she's never like, oh, Linguini, like, you don't deserve this, until she finds out, like, he's not been cooking and he's just been controlled by a rat. But even then, like, she's more disappointed that he lied to her and not necessarily because he, like, surpassed her or anything.
I feel like it adds a little bit of nuance to Gusteau's character. The fact that he had the mantra, anyone can cook, and there was only one female chef in his kitchen.
Mm-hmm. And she also, of all the chefs at Gusteau's, she's the one who kind of believes in Gusteau's mantra the most.
Yeah.
Because she's the one who introduces Linguini like, hey, look, everyone here has come from all different walks of life, and we all believe in Gusteau's anyone can cook philosophy.
And in the end, it's what gets her to turn around and go back. Which is nice, nice book ending.
Yeah.
I wonder what she did before her life as a chef. Because everyone else had like a secret backstory. She like an assassin or something? She's really good with knives.
She's really good at knives. She rides a motorcycle. I feel like she maybe had the most traditional path to, like, maybe she went to culinary school. And
I feel like it was grueling. I feel like
I think she had to work her way through multiple kitchens.
Yeah.
Getting the right connections. Proving her skill as a chef and that she can hold her own in like a fine dining restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
The culinary world is cutthroat.
Yeah. Although Ratatouille's kitchen in the lore of the movie presents itself as very cutthroat and very like brutal. But now that we have shows like The Bear out, Ratatouille's kitchen feels really nice.
Yeah.
Like there's only one like quote chef and everyone's yelling like functional things to each other instead of like being really upset.
I haven't watched The Bear because I think I would be too stressed out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've only seen a little bit of it, and I can't do stressful media.
I do love cooking shows. Like, I just love anything to do with food in media. Like, I used to love watching MasterChef. Yeah, I watched a lot of MasterChef as a kid.
British baking show is nice.
Great British Bake Off, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a big...
When I say British baking show.
Okay.
Wow.
Weirdly, I couldn't get into Great British Bake Off because it wasn't as stressful. Like, I think you I think you need like a little bit of stressfulness to like keep things interesting, you know?
But
a little bit of arsenic just for flavor.
No. The stress comes in because they're all really, really nice to each other. They're all really genuinely good people, and you don't want to see any of them lose.
Yeah.
But someone has to lose.
Also, everything looks so good. And the stressful part is that I don't get to eat any of it.
Yeah,
Exactly.
no, I can't watch cooking shows unless I'm actively eating.
Yeah. It makes my stovetop mac and cheese taste a little bit better.
Well, actually, though, when I watched Ratatouille this last week, I had just eaten like a huge meal. So I was like, I'm so full, I could not stomach another bite. And even then, I was like, I need a snack on something. Because this movie makes you just want to like be eating something.
I know there's a Ratatouille restaurant in Disneyland Paris. And I also know that the ratatouille they serve there is not on the menu. It's like a side dish. You order with something else.
Ooh.
Huh.
So you can't go to Ratatouille
And order Ratatouille. That's how they get you, because they know everyone wants to try Ratatouille.
Yeah.
So they got to make it a side dish.
Yeah.
Boo.
I mean, it's probably a certain practicality, too.
There's got to be some reason for it. Like maybe like the dish itself is not substantial.
Again, I don't think Ratatouille is substantial as a main dish.
Yeah.
Because it's just vegetables. Even when I add pepperoni, I'm still kind of like...
vegans? No, I'm kidding.
No, it's like great. I just like, it needs
it's the
more
format
substance.
of this full dish.
Yeah. I think like it definitely, if you don't have protein, it definitely needs at least carbs. Because like a lot of pasta dishes are like mostly just like tomatoes and like vegetables, right?
Or just a lot of it. Just like a big bowl of ratatouille.
Yeah, I don't know.
That'd be
Like
a lot of tomatoes. Well, I guess pasta's a lot of tomatoes.
I like tomatoes.
How much tomato sauce is in pasta versus ratatouille ultimately?
it's a base of tomato sauce,
Okay,
and then you also add tomatoes into like
I thought Ratatouille had like a pepper sauce. Or am I thinking of something else?
I don't know. At least the one I followed was like
you made it, so I'm going to trust you. I have no experience with Ratatouille. I should be doubting you at all.
I recommend. It's very good.
Is it tomato sauce? A little bit of tomato sauce.
So the recipe that I got, it technically calls for you to make the tomato sauce from scratch, but I was like, that's a lot of work. So what we did was we just got like a pre-made marinara sauce. And anyone really will do. Like you can choose like a basil one or a mushroom and garlic one or whatever. And then we added some fresh onions to it and garlic just to like give it a little bit more. And then you put the vegetables on top of it. It is a lot of tomato, which is why I was like, it would be really good with bread or pasta. We had it with like a mushroom pilaf, which is pretty good. But yeah.
Oh, it sounds amazing.
Any final thoughts on Ratatouille?
No final thoughts. The faster we finish this, the sooner we can eat.
That's so valid.
Yes, dinner is soon.
Until next time, shut up, get out of here. I gotta go eat. The Ratty makes pasta, and I will eat now. Bye.
Is that the end?
No.
I just love this movie, and I think I could watch Remy cook for like hours. So if anyone wants to just make a show that's just Remy cooking, that'd be great.
Please, Disney, please do not make a live-action remake of Ratatouille.
Oh, God.
I don't want to see it. I don't want it.
I don't even want to speak it into existence.
You get your pick. You get live-action remake of Ratatouille, or you get Ratatouille, which is the sequel.
I don't want either.
And the logo it says Rata, and there's a number 2 exploding, and the Rata part is canted to the side because the 2 is exploding out of it. But instead of it saying like we, the way Ratatouille the word ends, it says W-I, like the French oui. So it says Ratatouille.
Wait, isn't we like O-U-I?
But instead of the E at the end of Ratatouille, the word, it says O-U-I, like the French oui. So it says Rata numeral 2, oui. And the number 2 is exploding out of the word. And then Remy is like in front of the 2, like kind of careening into the air with a surprised look on his face.
Like Linguini's kid?
No, don't. Let's not even try. Let's not even go there.
I'm going to switch gears real quick because I just wanted to say the restaurant at the end is probably the only restaurant in existence that has no food scraps.
Oh, yeah.
Because restaurants throw out so much food, guys.
And it all goes to the rat restaurant.
It all goes to the rats. What a perfect system.
Yes, exactly. Like this is probably the closest it will ever get to the most environmentally friendly restaurant. Because
more restaurants should have rats.
Yeah. And that's the moral of the story.
Until next time, more restaurants should have rats. Thank you for listening to Nostalgia Club. Welcome to Season 4. We really appreciate your listenership. If you want to email us with suggestions or comments or anything, you can email us at nostalgiclubpodcast at nostalgiclubpodcast nostalgiclubpodcast@gmail.com. We also have Instagram at nostalgiclubpodcast. And take it away, Michael.
The ratty makes things that I want to go eat. He makes ratatouille, it sure does look sweet. The critic, he's nasty, but he changed his tune. He smiles real big. Where's something else that makes him look...
Oh, you're doing so well.
He wears like a cable knit sweater with like a turtleneck. He looks like he's much happier in his retirement.
Awesome.
Yay!
End it anywhere.